So in this segment, we're going to be discussing people are going to consume enthusiasm in the UK rather than actual wage increases and sustainable living.
When will people notice a difference from the plans that you are going to announce today?
Well, look, I think they will feel a difference this year because of the revisions to growth that we have seen. But also what the decisions you will see today will mean is that we will generate that sense of excitement, momentum, dynamism. People will be clear that if you aren't investing in the UK, you stand to miss out. Big infrastructure projects do take time to deliver, but the sense of things happening in the UK, of determination.
So this runway won't be operational until about 2040, and I think it will depend on things like legal challenges. Because Sadiq Khan, I think they're gonna put legal challenge in down there. But you know, the sense of optimism and the sense you're missing out in the UK when America are doing the same thing but on steroids, and you know, like. Invest in what here? I don't get it. Like AstraZeneca pulled out of a big investment they were going to do in the UK because of a lack of government support. The only way we're going to get these countries to invest in the UK is through massive subsidies or through the government putting up money and the risk, because the UK is pointless to an extent to invest in the UK unless you're looking at doing very specific things like research and development, and then you take the manufacturing elsewhere. That's all that's going to happen. So that's why they're focusing on the Oxford-Cambridge corridor, because those are two of the best universities in the world. But you're going to develop the stuff here, and then you're going to ship manufacturing maybe to Asia or maybe to Europe or to America, because you can't trade from the UK. If you develop medicines in the UK, you're still going to have to get regulated in the EU, and it's going to go through a metric ton of border checks if you try and export it. Whereas if you set up your R&D facility in the UK, you're going to get massive subsidies because this government are desperate for that kind of stuff, those kind of optical wins. We saw it under the Tories, and you're going to send manufacturing elsewhere, you know, maybe to Ireland, because I think Ireland actually does manufacture a lot of medicines and things like that, given that it's a relatively small country, and they can export directly to, get this, not just the rest of Europe, but also to GB, tariff free, check free. So there's this idea that, you know, we're going to become this big development hub for life sciences. It's probably going to happen, yeah, sure, because the government will put the money up, but the main money is in the manufacture of the stuff. That's what's going to create jobs and, you know, create sustainable wealth. It's not going to happen. You know, this speech that Rachel Reeves put out is just complete baloney.
To deliver for the British people, that can be generated by what you will hear today. So look, there's some positive signs, but we do want to go further. There's not an ounce of complacency in this government. We need a stronger economy. We will not accept the decline of the last 15 years.
One thing is true, people can't pay their bills because they feel like they might be in a better mood.
No, but the animal spirits that govern an economy determine things like investment, determine things like...
It's kind of animal spirits because it's illogical, sure, but you know, at least animals make sense in what they do. The markets don't in a lot of the things that happen. But this idea that the market's going to come flooding in, like, it's just not going to happen. You know, this enthusiasm you're trying to build, it's not working.
Wages determine things like employment, and that is what we need more of. And you're right to say, the only way we solve a whole range of problems in this country is a stronger, growing economy. But to do that, you need a government that's going to work with business and is going to deliver on some of these basic things, convince people, convince businesses that this is a government that can deliver on those things that have failed.
But how are you going to do it? Because again, AZ pulled out. You've got other companies, I think, not looking at the UK as a big vehicle, because it doesn't. Again, setting up a manufacturing place in the UK makes zero sense.
Governments in the past. We were elected to deliver change. That is what we're going to do. Not everyone will be happy with the determination that we're going to show today, but you will see the resolve to do the things this country needs to see happen.
So it's okay, you know, wanting to do stuff and having the spirit to do things, but unless you're doing the right things, no one cares. You can stick someone who has no idea of how to cook, and they can have all the passion and all the spirit in the world to make something right, but all that's going to happen is they're going to keep messing up, and without proper guidance and help, they're going to burn your kitchen down. And that's all we're going to see from here. You can't eat animal spirits and enthusiasm. It doesn't work. You need a plan for sustainable investment. It's simply not going to happen under this lot. Rachel Reeves' speech on the third runway in Heathrow. Again, we're going to talk about why this is a red herring anyways, because it's not going to work. It's been called out by people in the industry over this. But again, this policy is so dumb because the people in Heathrow, in and around Heathrow, don't want this. They don't, and they don't want it for justifiable reasons, which is noise and air pollution. But you've got in the north of England again, people who want another, the airports to be expanded. Rachel Reeves herself admitted that she, if they put another planning permission application in her constituency, she would back it. I don't think that's true, but whatever. Doing a third runner on Heathrow makes no sense, especially with Labour's green climate change policies as well. People don't want it, and I'm against NIMBYs as much as the next person, right? But unless you can make the case that this is going to add a lot of money to the country's economy and be, really important to us, I just don't see it.
Finally, I come to the decision that perhaps more than any other has been delayed, has been avoided, has been ducked. The question of whether to give Heathrow, our only hub airport, a third runway has run on for decades. The last full-length runway in Britain was built in the 1940s. No progress in 80 years. Why is this so damaging? It's because Heathrow is at the heart of the UK's openness as a country. It connects us to emerging markets all over the world, opening up new opportunities for growth. Around 3/4 of all long-haul flights in the UK go from Heathrow. Over 60% of...
Surely you'd want that to change, though, because you're putting a lot of pressure on the systems around Heathrow and the transport around Heathrow as well. Surely you could make it so, I don't know, somewhere like Manchester or Newcastle, fair enough, it's further up, but it's not that much further. That, surely these areas could use another runway, maybe Cardiff, or somewhere in Wales, for example. Like, surely you want to spread around the growth and the opportunities for these areas, because again, when people touch down to the airport, most likely they're going to get something to eat nearby as well, or on the way wherever they're going. So that's going to help that local economy as well. It doesn't. Again, I just don't get it.
UK air freight comes through Heathrow, and about 15 million business travellers used Heathrow in 2023. But for decades, its growth has been constrained. Successive studies have shown that this really matters for our economy. According to the most recent study from Frontier Economics, a third runway could increase potential GDP by 0.43% by 2050. Over half, 60% of that boost, would go to areas outside of London and the southeast, increasing trade opportunities.
So I don't know who this company are, Frontier Economics, right? Because it's very easy to get a study that you want that will benefit you, especially when Rachel Reeves has used analysis from Heathrow, themselves in order to get this expansion done. That's one of the sources she cited. So again, I think like you could use dodgy sources, and we've seen Labour do that actually with private water companies, where they use the analysis from the water companies themselves to argue against their nationalisation. So she has a record for doing this. I'm kind of flabbergasted by it.
For products like Scotch whisky and Scottish salmon, already two of the biggest British exports out of Heathrow. And a third runway could create over 100,000 jobs. For international investors, persistent delays have cast doubt about our seriousness towards improving our economic prospects. Business groups like the CBI, the Federation of Small Businesses, and the Chambers of Commerce right across the UK, as well as trade unions like GMB and Unite, are clear. A third runway is badly needed. In 2018, the previous government steered its airport's national policy statement through Parliament, but no action was taken. It simply sat on the shelf. We are taking a totally different approach to airport expansion. This government has already given its support to expansion at City Airport and at Stansted. And there are two...
So if we look at some of these stuff, because again, like, Alf O'Leary, Chief Executive of Opportunity Green, a campaign group, has studied the arguments of sustainable aviation fuel, which Rachel Reeves says has become a game changer, which again, how that happens within the space of about 2-3 years, I don't know. She says, yes, these fuels are biofuels made from crops, cooking oils and other sources of plant biomass, but producing them takes up huge amounts of land, endangering food security and biodiversity, which again makes sense because you're using crops rather than for food for consumption, you're using it for something else. Indeed, very little of these fuels even exist today, and producing them at anything like the scale we needed to decarbonise aviation would be totally incompatible with any notions of sustainability. Purchasing these fuels will send even more money outside the UK, as most sustainable aviation fuel comes from abroad, with wood pellets from overseas, forest imported into the UK just to be burned for jet fuel. In her speech, she cited that 0.43% figure by 2050 has been confirmed. The survey in question was commissioned by Heathrow itself and is based on data it supplied. So again, you can get any organisation you want to come up with whatever kind of study you want, right? Just like polling, you can get specific polls that you want and you set the criteria for it. You know, it's very concerning that the Chancellor appears to be basing her support for Heathrow expansion on a figure from a report commissioned by Heathrow Airport, said Alex Chapman at the New Economics Foundation. Even more worrying is the fact that the methodology they have applied is one the Department for Transport has previously decided is not fit for purpose, and that the report uses forecast data supplied by the airport itself. So, you know, again, my source is I made it up. That's effectively what this is.
Sources that I made.
Chapman added Heathrow expansion represents a major threat to the UK's climate goals and flies in the face of scientific advice even, to ensure that the claimed economic benefits are concrete. Assessments should be carried out by independent government economists following best practice methodology. Inside the Treasury, the search for new sources of growth widens by the day. It is said to be the Exchequer more than number 10 that is pushing an ambitious, bold reset with the EU over post-trade, which again, we know this. Some close to the Chancellor suggest that she's deliberately pushing the boundaries. One said, quote, "In a sense, she has not much to lose. If these things don't work, she can at least say she was the one who tried." And that's it, you know. Oh, at least I tried, guys. I did my best. It's pathetic. You're the Chancellor. You're the one who get promising change, promising growth. You're pushing through a policy that doesn't do that and makes things worse for the constituents in that area. You're using false economic assessments to push this, and ultimately people won't feel growth from this. But you know who will be annoyed? The people in that area who will have to suffer because of this airport and all that's gonna, or this runway, and all that's gonna happen is that those people will be turned off Labour, and predominantly they're gonna vote probably Green or Lib Dem. This is the height of stupidity here from Rachel Reeves.
2 live decisions on Luton and Gatwick, which will be made by the Transport Secretary shortly.
Again, these are all south of England.
But as our only hub airport, Heathrow is in a unique position, and we cannot duck the decision.
You know, it's not about ducking it. This is a bad decision. That's the problem. That's the problem. And you know, if it's such a big deal, surely you could build a hub airport elsewhere. You know, a hub airport is a central airport that serves as a connection point for flights operated by one or more airlines. Or you could tweak an airport to be another hub airport. It's so stupid. You know, maybe if the cynic in me says maybe there's some sort of donation that's gone on, but I think she's doing this to kind of as a big kind of marker to say I'm pushing for this thing that's incredibly unpopular, just to say that I'm pushing for growth here. And look at us, you know, we're pro business. We're pro all of these things, you know. That's why you want to set up shop in the UK, when business aren't stupid. They can see this for what it is. Let's be honest now. You know, and she's asked about this.
To new infrastructure can't always be no. That's what happened under the last government, and nothing got built and nothing.
You were involved in the no's as well. You were involved in that directly.
Nothing got done, and living standards deteriorated.
It wasn't because of the lack of construction. That was one problem we had. It was wage stagnation. It was increasing living costs. It was the fact that companies like the energy companies and the water companies weren't properly regulated and just kept increasing prices year after year after year, and costing people money being siphoned. Royal Mail privatization costing people and businesses lots of money. It wasn't down to austerity predominantly. It wasn't down to the lack of construction. It was down to the way wealth was being reallocated back to the wealthy. That's what happened. There was not enough redistribution of wealth, and that's one of the major reasons we had for the last decade of stagnation. A government that refused to build sustainable housing, refused to actually tax the wealthy, refused to invest in this country. You are investing in this country, investing badly, not taxing the rich though, and potentially continuing austerity onto poorer people. So again, that's why the country's in stagnation: austerity and privatization.
So it does mean having to take on people who are against new developments, whether it is wind farms, airports, or new rail lines. And
2 out of those 3 are fine.
The problem is is if you always give in and say, oh, OK, there's some objections to this, we'll end up in a situation where the economy continues to stagnate, living standards decline, and we'll be no further forward than we are now.
Which is not the worst answer. The problem is this airport thing. Like, you're conflating two good things: rail lines, and I think it's housing. She mentioned wind farm, sorry, and rail lines. Two objectively good things. Where something that in Heathrow you don't need. The analysis has been torn apart on it. Sorry, and this is someone who actually works in the industry, Michael O'Leary, telling Sophie Ridge that the third runway is a dead cat, effectively.
Look, Rachel Reeves is talking rubbish all day long. The third runway at Heathrow is a dead cat. She has failed to deliver any growth. We have told her and sent her a plan in early December how to deliver growth in UK aviation, and not just in London, but across all the regional airports of the UK, and that's abolish APD. The cost will be about $4 billion a year. It will be paid for once, twice over by a dramatic surge in inbound air travel and tourism across the UK. She's failed, and therefore what she's trying to do now is distract people with talk about...
So APD is air passenger duty, a tax on passengers flying from the United Kingdom or Isle of Man. It's paid in addition to airport taxes and fees. It's based on the length of the flight and the class of cabin. The amount of APD an airline pays depends on the distance travelled. So this is a flight tax. So it's obvious why he would want the abolishment of a flight tax. I'd love to see where O'Leary gets his analysis from in terms of how this is going to increase flights and things like that, because it's a minor amount that is going to be charged on to people. Plane passengers will pay £2 more tax on the cheapest short haul seats from April 2026. So again, this is a tax that's going to cost these business money. Are they going to pass the savings on to the consumer? 100% no. Like we saw this when Labour cut VAT and businesses didn't care.
The third runway. We support the third runway, but everybody should understand the third runway will not be delivered in Heathrow, if ever, until about 2040 or 2050. So it's at least 15 or 25 years away. This is not how you deliver growth in the UK economy in the next 5 years or during the lifetime of this government.
So again, he's right, about that. This is not going to add that much to the UK's GDP. Like, if they could get spades in the ground within the next 3 years, I'd be surprised. And obviously, it would create jobs in the meantime if it did do that, or at least it would give construction workers a job down if they were out of work. But I doubt they will be, because we have a lack of trade people in the UK. So construction workers will be the last people unemployed here for a while, at least. So this is a massive red herring. Again, I think it's a marker to the public to say, like, we're actually doing stuff. We're against the blockers and all this kind of stuff. When what Labour don't understand is people don't care about that. What people want is to be able to afford to live, which people are struggling to do. They want to be able to potentially buy a house if they're at that stage in their life, and just have basic amenities. Be able to go see a doctor and such. Like this Heathrow runway is not going to do that. It's not going to give people what they want. All this is just the appearance of looking busy, which I would, again, I've made this point in another video. That's what this Labour Party, that's all they do, is they have the appearance of looking busy, but never do. They never actually get anything done. It's classic middle management problems. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.